Strategy number 5, forecasting 2020. Every doctor I know is concerned about 2 things right now. How am I going to get through this time and conserve my cash? And secondly, how am I going to earn a living this year, and how much money am I going to make? Those are the 2 questions everybody wants to know. I'm providing a budget here. This is a budget that I worked out earlier this week. We're helping doctors to figure out their cash forecast and their budgets. You can have the spreadsheet. This link right here will take you right to the spreadsheet, and you can download it. This particular doctor had a $1.2 million practice last year. They were on track to do about $1.4 million this year when all this stuff happened. Out of that 1.2 to 1.4, he was planning on making high 500s this year. If you download this budget and plug in your numbers, you'll understand how we worked through all this, where we're negotiating, what levers we're pulling. Failing to plan is planning to fail. If you don't take the time to figure out your budget and your cash flow, bank error in your favor only happens in Monopoly. I don't know how else to say that. This particular doctor is projecting a net $20,000 loss for the entire 2020. He was planning on making about 580, and with this revised budget and really working on this, he's going to be making around 560. I don't know any doctor in the world that would be unhappy with that. He's done the hard work and he's done the hard lifting. The reality is, if you can close the gap this year, if we're closed down for 4 to 6 weeks, you need to raise your production 15 to 20% over 16 to 20 weeks. That's how the math works out. If you can do this, you'll make the same money this year. And if you take the time to lay out your budget and dive into how those numbers work, you'll understand how to do it in your practice. During the shutdown, we have a lot of doctors who are trying to keep their staff on board. Some have that luxury, others have had to slim down, or some have had to close completely. And I see this time, this is a perfect opportunity to train and develop your people. If you aren't happy with your people's performance, any slow time, Christmas, Thanksgiving, July 4th, spring break, fall break, coronavirus, all these times are perfect. As I talked about before, our data shows that 16 to 20 weeks of increased production will make up this shutdown, and it'll get you back on track for 2020. Now, your revenue will still be down, but you're going to make up for that because you're going to negotiate your expenses. And I'm going to show you all about that here in just a few minutes. The most powerful lever that you have at your disposal to do this is the 5 A's. The 5 A's is our very specific set of strategies that's going to focus on 5 areas of your practice, and it's going to maximize the money in your bank account. There's 5 things you need to do in your practice: answer, appoint, attend, accept, and have an average case size or an average patient value that you're following. How many calls are you answering? How many that you answer get appointed? How many that you appoint attend? How many that attend accept treatment? And how many, what is the average of that treatment that they're accepting? Here's the math. Wherever you're at today, if you're answering 5% of your calls or 95% of your calls, if you're appointing 30% of the patients that call, and believe me, I've seen it, and it surprises the doctor every time, or you're appointing 60% of the patients you call, if you've got a 60% attendance rate, show up rate, or you got a 90%, wherever you're at on this scale, here's the math. If you increase each stage 10%, a meager 10%, if instead of answering 70% of your calls, you challenge your team and you teach them how to answer 80%. And this isn't just telling Susie to go do her job better. That's not why your team is answering 70% of their calls. Excuse me. There's specific reasons and strategies behind each of these 5 A's. We go through all of this in our Success Academy, and we're giving a bunch of this away to you tonight. If you increase each stage 10%, you double the revenue, double. So if you're answering 60% and you go to 70%, if you're getting 60% appointed and you move that to 70%, and you do that all the way down the funnel, you double your revenue. It seems crazy, but it's just simple math. And this isn't spreadsheet leadership, right? We're not going to take our spreadsheet to our team and say, you got to do this. This is your goal. Go do this, Susie. You got to do better. That doesn't work. You all have maybe had consultants that tried the spreadsheet management approach before, and you had an insurrection in your office. That's not how this thing works. The math drives the strategy. The strategy has to support the people, right? And that's the magic. You can't give a spreadsheet to your people and hope that it works, because it doesn't. It'll turn them against you. In fact, we're offering Success Academy. You can get your whole team in Success Academy right now for no charge. We'll tell you how to do that here in a little while. You can close the gap. Remember, the Empire State Building and the Golden Gate Bridge were both built during the Great Depression. Great things can be built during adversity, but you have to start building today. If you don't start building, it's not going to happen. Right now, we're hearing that things may be open by Easter. Whether you believe that or not, that's what they've said. It may be later. It may be sooner in your state. Nobody knows. And that's part of the anxiety here, is nobody really knows for sure what's going to happen. We've got to be developing these strategies for every possible scenario. And that's how you're going to slingshot out of this deal on the back end. Hey, what a coincidence. My next slide. How are we going to immediately slingshot out of this? I'm going to throw the book at you here. This is all stuff that our top performing clients are doing right now. Patients, dentistry is not going away, folks. Patients still need care. You're going to reopen in the future, and your patients are going to need care. They're going to need somewhere to go. Now, the psychology of risk and reward is this. If I tell you you have a 90% chance of dying, you're going to make a different decision than if I tell you you have a 10% chance of living. This is psychology. So unfortunately, our news cycles right now are telling everybody about the percentage of death that exists out there and the percentage of everything bad. We tend to weight those risks heavier than if they simply talked about the flip side of the success rate. This is how we work as people. So we've got to weight these things to make sure that we are being fair in our assessment of where we're really at. We went through the 2008 recession. I started SmartBox in 2001. We went through the 2008 recession. We've been there, done that. Dentists that didn't prepare came out of this recession, and they suffered for 14 to 16 months longer and experienced 38% lower revenue than those that were proactive. Across 15,000 practices right now, as of last week, 15,000 practices in the US that we have optics into right now. 2 weeks ago, 44% of all of their patient base had no future appointment. As of last week, that 44% has risen to 52%. I'm going to tell you, our base of patients across 15,000 practices is millions and millions of patients. That 44 to 52% future appointment is indicative of what's going to happen to most practices when this thing's all over. That 52% is going to grow to 70 or 80%. And the majority of practices in this country are going to walk back to empty chairs, holes in their schedule, and their staff standing around twiddling their thumbs. If you don't get proactive on solving this problem, that's what's going to happen. If you think that you're just going to open your doors and in 2 or 3 weeks, it's just going to start back up, that's not the reality of how this works. We've done this before. We've seen this. If this thing is short term, being closed is going to be like a long holiday vacation. And we've got to make sure that when we come back, we're ready to spin up. We're going to give everybody, if you don't have dental intel already, we're going to get you dental intel for free. If you already have dental intel, we're going to get you local med for free. If you already have local med, we'll get you dental intel for free, right? Dental intel is going to do a magic thing for you. It's going to show you, and we've already pre-populated everybody's dental intel with specific reports designed to mine inside your database and tell you where are your hygiene broken and unscheduled since March 16th? Where's your restorative broken and unscheduled since March 16th? Who are your preferred patients post-pandemic once we all reopen? Who's abandoned? Who's this week and next week? Who's your high-risk patients that need a different message around this patient security plan probably than the rest of them? They need a stronger message around safety. If you have EagleSoft, Dentrix, or Open Dental, we're going to hook you up with dental intel in about 30 minutes. It's that quick, and you're going to have access to this enormous amount of data. One of the best things you also need to be focused on right now in making sure you're caring for your cash flow is what's your AR look like? What are your insurance claims look like? Have you already filed all those? Go get the unfiled insurance claims, look at your AR, look at how these insurance companies are paying you and who owes you money. And we need to go beat the bushes on this and make sure we're getting paid. This cash flow is going to be critical to bridge this gap. Now, if you aren't able to get dental intel because you don't have a practice management system that's one of those three, we can still show you how to run those reports. So give us a call. We'll help you through it.